Something extraordinary just happened in Beijing, and if you miss this story, you will miss exactly why the world is splitting apart, right now, in real time. Putin landed in Beijing today, and Xi Jinping rolled out the full red carpet, honor guard, military band playing both national anthems, a 21-gun salute firing across Tiananmen Square, flags waving, children cheering, maximum pageantry. Now, here is the thing that should stop you cold. Trump was in Beijing just last week. He spent 3 days with Xi, promised sweeping trade deals, and left without a single substantive announcement. Putin shows up, and within hours they signed joint statements, extended a major treaty of friendship, attacked Trump's defense plans, and called the United States irresponsible. Same red carpet, completely different energy. Ask yourself, why? Stay with me, because what just happened in Beijing is not just diplomacy, it is a signal, a 47-page signal. And it has direct consequences for every country on this planet, including yours. If this is your first time here on Verified Bulletin, hit subscribe right now. We break down global power moves the way they actually are, not the way governments want you to see them. Putin and Xi signed a joint declaration focused on building a multipolar world and a new type of international relations. Russian presidential aide Yuri Ushakov described this declaration as a 47-page policy document. 47 pages. That is not a press release. That is a blueprint. So, what does a multipolar world actually mean for you? Right now, one country, the United States, holds dominant influence over global finance, military alliances, trade rules, and international institutions. A multipolar world means that ends. Power spreads. And the countries pushing hardest for that shift are China and Russia, together, publicly, today. Xi stood in front of the world and said, "The era of the unipolar world order is nearing its end." That is not casual language, that is a declaration. Xi said, "The international situation is marked by intertwined turbulence and transformation, while unilateral hegemonic currents are running rampant." He did not name America. He did not have to. Everyone in that room, and every foreign ministry watching on a screen, knew exactly who he meant. Now let us talk about the thing that genuinely sent shockwaves through Western defense circles today. Trump announced a $175 billion missile defense system called the Golden Dome, a massive space and ground-based shield designed to protect American soil from ballistic missile attacks. It is the most ambitious defense project the U.S. has attempted since the Cold War. In their joint statement, China and Russia took direct aim at Trump's Golden Dome project, warning it poses a threat to global strategic stability. Their joint statement said, "The U.S. Golden Dome project poses a clear threat to strategic stability. These plans completely negate the key principle of maintaining strategic stability, which requires the inseparable interconnection of strategic offensive and strategic defensive weapons." Think about what that means. If the U.S. builds a shield that can stop incoming missiles, Russia and China's nuclear deterrence becomes weaker. Their entire military leverage rests on the threat of nuclear retaliation. Remove that threat, and the balance of power shifts dramatically toward Washington. They are not angry about the Golden Dome because it is defensive. They are angry because it changes the math of nuclear power. Forever. And it does not stop there. Xi and Putin also criticized Trump for allowing the New START nuclear arms control treaty, which expired earlier this year, to lapse without negotiating a replacement, calling Washington irresponsible. That treaty was the last major framework keeping nuclear arsenals in check between the U.S. and Russia. Gone. No replacement, no talks, nothing. So right now, the world has no functional nuclear arms control agreement. The U.S. is building a $175 billion missile shield, and Russia and China just signed a 47-page partnership document calling for a new world order. That is the moment we are living in. pause and let that sink in. Drop a comment below. Do you think the world is genuinely heading toward a new Cold War? Or is this all just political theater? I want to know what you think. Now, here is the part of the story that most news channels are completely glossing over. And this is where it gets deeply interesting. Russia and China have been locked in talks for years over a massive natural gas pipeline that would bring Russian gas through Mongolia to China from Russia's natural gas heartland in northern Siberia. Pricing and other issues have remained elusive. Putin needs this pipeline badly. Russia lost its European energy market when the Ukraine war triggered sanctions. China is now Russia's largest importer of fossil fuels, with coal shipments more than doubling since 2020. Russia is economically dependent on China in a way it has never been before. But China is playing it cool. Beijing has other energy suppliers. It is not desperate. Beijing has long been seen as cautious about this mega project, given its push for renewable energy transition and long-standing energy security concerns about being too reliant on a single supplier. So you have Russia, the one coming to the table with everything to lose, sitting across from China, which holds almost all the cards. Analysts have said the pipeline could offset nearly half of the gas exports to Europe that Russia has lost since the Ukraine war began. For Putin, this is not just a trade deal, it is economic survival. China's state media reports on the meeting made no mention of the pipeline being concluded. Xi told Putin their countries should use major projects to drive cooperation, but stopped short of confirming the deal. Read that again. Russia needs it. China is dangling it. The most powerful friendship in the world right now has a very clear power imbalance underneath the surface. Want to understand what real geopolitical leverage looks like? Watch this relationship. China is not Russia's equal partner. China is Russia's lifeline. This is the analysis mainstream media will never give you straight. If you are finding value in this breakdown, smash that like button right now. It genuinely helps this channel reach people who need to see this content. Now, back to Beijing. Because there is one more layer to this story that you need to understand before this video ends. Xi and Putin have met more than 40 times. Putin used a Chinese idiom during his opening remarks that translates to, "One day apart feels like 3 autumns," emphasizing the sadness of being separated from a close friend. 40 times. These two men have built something that goes beyond diplomatic meetings and signed documents. And the timing of this visit, immediately after Trump left Beijing, is not a coincidence. For China, Putin's 2-day trip is about reassuring a trusted ally after the Trump visit offered a potential reset in Beijing's turbulent relationship with Washington. Xi essentially told the world, "Yes, I met Trump. I gave him the red carpet. We talked. But my deepest strategic alignment? That is with Moscow." And here is the 47-page document to prove it. The Kremlin pushed back against comparisons between the two visits. Spokesman Dmitry Peskov said it makes more sense to compare the substance rather than the ceremonial trappings of Putin and Trump's trips. Translation: do not be distracted by the pageantry. Look at what was actually agreed. Trump got photo opportunities and a trade conversation that is still unfinished. Putin got a renewed treaty of friendship, a joint declaration on the global order, coordinated opposition to America's nuclear strategy, and a public display of solidarity in the heart of Beijing. Xi also directly addressed the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran, saying its early end will help reduce disruption to energy supplies, supply chains, and global trade. An interesting line, telling on the Middle East conflict while staying quiet on Ukraine. Notice what Xi mentioned and what he left out. China wants the Iran war to stop because it hurts its energy supply. Ukraine keeps bleeding Russia and keeps Russia dependent on Beijing. Those two positions serve China's interests perfectly. None of this is accidental. Every word that comes out of a summit like this is calculated months in advance. Here is the bigger picture that you need to carry with you after this video ends. We are watching the architecture of a new world order being drafted in real time. The United States built the current international system, the dollar, the alliances, the institutions after World War II. That system has dominated for 80 years. What Xi and Putin signed today is a direct challenge to that legacy. Whether you agree or disagree with their positions, whether you see this as justified pushback against American overreach or as dangerous authoritarianism expanding its reach, the fact is undeniable. The world is dividing, fast. Xi and Putin warned against a global return to the law of the jungle, a world where the strongest simply take from the weakest and rules mean nothing. The irony, of course, is that critics of both leaders would say that is precisely what is happening in Ukraine and in the South China Sea. The language of international order has always been wielded by those who define what order means. That tension between great power competition and the rules-based international system is the defining conflict of the next decade. And today's Beijing summit just pushed it several steps further into the open. What happens next? Watch the pipeline negotiations. Watch whether Europe responds to the China-Russia alliance with tighter military coordination with the US. Watch whether Trump escalates on the Golden Dome or uses it as a bargaining chip. And most importantly, watch China. Because right now, Beijing is the one country holding cards with everyone at the table, Washington, Moscow, and the Global South simultaneously. This story is moving fast, and Verified Bulletin will be here covering every development as it unfolds. If you made it this far, you are exactly the kind of viewer this channel was built for. Subscribe so you never miss a breakdown like this one. Share this video with someone who thinks global news is too complicated to follow. This is what it actually looks like when you strip out the noise. And leave a comment. What do you think Beijing's endgame really is? Is China building a genuine alternative world order, or is this all leverage for future negotiations with America? The game is being played. The question is whether the rest of the world gets to understand the rules before the outcome is already decided.